welcome back to the show. Before the break, we were talking about a transport accident. What is a transport accident? What is a motor vehicle? And again, people throw up different scenarios about what is a motor vehicle. But and the legislation tries to deal with different motor vehicles, and I suppose it's evolving. But a motorised cycle is not a motor vehicle. It's got to have a motor vehicle really needs a motor to power it.
Yes.
So
it's got a limit of 200 watts on it. You can have a pedal power motorised cycle, which you see those ones that we've seen, and you've seen them in other countries. If they've got a power output more than 200 watts,
then that's a motor vehicle.
They may be described as
a motor vehicle, but under 200 watts. Yeah. And so all the motorised sort of wheelchairs and things you see around shopping centres, they're not covered. They're not a motor vehicle.
I would think not.
No. And then, so cyclists, again, you know, the numbers are increasing. The government wants people to cycle to and from work.
Yes.
So they're covered.
Yes.
But people who
are...
If
they're involved with a motor...
With a motor vehicle.
Or the opening car door, or they're going to or from work.
To or from work. And
or swerving.
Swerving. And then I think you've got some stats about the numbers of cyclists who have accidents, and interestingly enough, the days of the week which are most common for accidents. Why? I think you've got stats to say...
I got some stats off the TAC website today. There was some interesting statistics for the cyclists. 500 seriously injured in 2007, 458. The numbers are dropping in 2008. But then I went to another scenario where they'd actually done a test on 768. What days of the week were the most popular? Tuesdays and Thursdays. 143 on Tuesdays, 132 on Thursdays.
So on Monday you're relatively safe?
By the look of it. Peak times, 8 o'clock to 9:59, 158 in the morning. 1600 to 1959, 148 and 105 on top of that for your peak hours. So it's obviously morning peak and afternoon peak.
Peak and as I say, Mondays or Fridays you're relatively safe.
Now the gender question, the gender,
males, females.
Unbelievable statistic, but
mostly
592, close to 600 males, 161 females.
Okay, so that probably, female cyclists are probably a safer lot.
Yes.
Less gung-ho and probably
and travelling
more cautious.
Travelling in the same direction, there was 167 as against opposing direction 134. So even travelling in the same direction, they can come to grief.
Okay. But so that's sort of cyclists, and they're covered.
Yeah.
Now the other thing, the aspect the legislation covers is interstate accidents. So if you're a Victorian resident and you travel interstate in a Victorian registered car, you're covered as a transport accident under the legislation.
Yes.
But that's for no fault benefits.
Correct.
But the first thing, if you're injured interstate, the first thing you've got to do when you get back to Victoria is
lodge a claim.
Lodge a claim. Yep. Once you lodge a claim, everything else sort of...
The process starts.
Yep. And that gives you entitlements to medical expenses, loss of earnings...
And impairment.
And an impairment lump sum, which is a no-fault benefit.
Yes.
And then if you're injured interstate, then you've got to, in effect, pursue the laws of that state...
Correct.
...to get common law.
If you've got a common law entitlement in that state.
If you've got a common law entitlement in that state. But again... the first thing someone who comes back to Victoria, if they see Martin Smith in the street, you'd tell them, put in a claim.
Lodge the claim.
Lodge the claim. That's the first thing.
Got 12 months to do it, and the exception's 3 years, but
lodge a claim. Yep. All right. And look, the other, again, interesting thing about motor vehicles and claims under motor vehicle legislation is nervous shock and what happens with people who are confronted with particularly gruesome scenarios with motor vehicles. We've had some tragic cases recently, with some teenagers killed. The law used to be you had to be in proximity. You had to see or witness the accident in effect.
Yes.
And then that arose nervous shock, which is nightmares and reliving the accident. It affects you, and it's got long-term effects upon your ability to function.
Yes.
And in effect, you have a potential claim under TAC. Again, first thing you've got to do if you have a potential nervous shock claim is to lodge a claim. You've got to lodge the claim.
Correct. It's the go back to the entitlement provision. That is simply a person who is injured. And then you go to the question of injury. An injury is obviously a physical injury, a mental injury, or nervous shock.
Nervous shock.
So if you are a person that has suffered from nervous shock and you're being obviously receiving some treatment, lodge the claim. Then that covers you for your medical benefits. Your no-fault
benefits.
Yes.
Yeah. And then, as I say, nervous shock. Originally, the court said, in effect, you had to be an eyewitness to events.
Or the immediate aftermath.
Or the immediate aftermath
Yes.
of the event. But now it's gradually widening to say that if you are a relative, a close relative of someone who's been injured or died in a car
Yes.
accident, then the effect of that event
Yes.
can cause an injury to you,
Yes.
and then you've got to put in a claim form and then TAC deal with it in due course. But we've had some tragic cases in Victoria.
Some of the rescue workers that turn up, for example, some of those people that are there, whether it be police, whether it be tow truck drivers, etc., whether it be somebody, good Samaritan that's come out of their house and they're confronted with a deceased.
But that's a proximity. That's where they've actually witnessed a gruesome, dramatic event.
Correct.
And you know, with the train, Kerrang train, plus the Mildura, the teenagers who were
the parents that turned up later, etc. Yes.
They've put in claims, and some have been accepted, some have been rejected, but they've all put in.
They're being processed.
A lot of claims have been put in. So again, that arises out of a transport accident,
Correct.
and that's an injury that is not direct, but it's an indirect effect.
Yes.
Of a transport accident. There are other sort of amazing scenarios where you could spend quite a few shows about the transport accident, and it's, as I say, 300 pages. It's sort of bedside reading for Martin. He sort of falls asleep.
Good on you.
Reading the act, but you know, he's lived with the legislation effect since 1987, but yeah, some interesting cases, and
yes.
Again, subject to a lot of dispute. But thanks for watching tonight. We welcome your inquiries, and please look at our website and send in any emails to our email address. And that's all we've got time for tonight. Thanks very much, Martin. Coming off the bench at short notice, but it's been fascinating.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.